Well, up first, let's get to the latest on the rescue program that's taking place in Uttarkashi in Uttarakhand. Now, only 8 to 10 meters of drilling is left for rescuers to reach the 41 construction workers who are trapped in a tunnel, is what officials have said. Today was the 13th day, but authorities are not giving any time frame because unexpected hurdles have been delaying the work. A ground-penetrating radar has revealed that there are likely to be no major metal obstacles for the next 5 meters. And if all goes well, pushing in 2 more pipes may be enough to reach the labourers. Remember, medical teams are also on standby and the rescue work is being monitored very, very closely. Let's go across to Ghazali now, who has been bringing us reports from the ground for the last couple of days there. So, Ghazali, the 13th day, we were very hopeful earlier when we spoke to you that maybe today is the day they will come out. But still, it is a very delicate, challenging process, as we know. Tell us, what are authorities now saying?
What we are picking up is that one of the NDRF officials has told the media that around 15 meters is yet to be drilled. So why these figures keep changing every day? Because nobody knows till what point the rubble has occupied the area. So in the afternoon we were told it's around 8 to 10 meters, then it was 8 to 12 meters. But one NDRF official has said that it's 15 meters. Now, yet again, the drilling has stopped because despite the officials claiming that the radar system has not detected any metal object in the first 5 meters, the drilling is stopped after drilling around 2.2 meters. Yet again, the auger machine has hit some metallic object. That is why the drilling has stopped and it has not resumed. Now, when does it stop and when does it resume its operation is never shared by the authorities here, because it can also create confusion in the mind of families of those who are trapped inside the tunnel. All the health facilities are on standby, and today we also reported that how NDRF men who have been deployed here and a 15-member team will go inside to pull them out. They have carried out mock drills a couple of times through the day. Mr. General V.K. Singh, the Union Minister of State, Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, Mr. Pushkar Singh Dhami, they both went inside the tunnel, spent some considerable time to assess the situation and the progress of the drilling operations. But what we have been told is that this drilling has stopped because it has hit a metallic object, and perhaps this is one more night for the construction workers to spend there inside the tunnel.
All right, Ghazali, thanks so much for joining us there with the latest. So now authorities saying it's actually 15 meters that is still left to be drilled before they can reach those 41 men. Today was the 13th day. Thanks so much for that, Ghazali. Let's just take a look at what authorities have been telling us through the day.
Which I'm reinforcing, okay, we are going to be very, very careful in the further progress. शुरू में तब भी काफी जल्दबाजी के साथ काफी अच्छा प्रोग्रेस हुआ था, क्योंकि उस मलबे के अंदर, डेब्री के अंदर उस तरह की अर्पण नहीं मिली थी. बट नाउ इफ वी हैव टू इनकाउंटर मोर ऑफ इट, देन वी हैव टू बी वेरी केयरफुल. निगरानी जो है उसकी कोई कमी नहीं है. लॉट्स ऑफ ऑफिशियल्स, हाईएस्ट ऑफिशियल्स आर ऑल देयर कैरिंग आउट दिस थिंग एंड कैरिंग आउट कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्डिंग ऑल द टाइम. द फॉरेन कंसल्टेंट्स कंटिन्यू टू रिमेन देयर. 2-3 दफे वो टेलीविजन पे भी आए हैं, बहुत अच्छी उसकी इमेजरी हुई है. It has created a more sense of confidence in everyone.
GPR की है, पार्सन्स करके एक है, उनकी कम्युनिकेशन टेक्नोलॉजी की स्पेशल टीम इमरजेंसी में बुलाई गई. उनमें भी एक लड़का जो भारत भास्कर जो कभी इस तरह के मतलब नैरो स्पेस में नहीं गया होगा, उसको अंदर भेजा गया. वो 45 मीटर अंदर जा करके उसने 45 मिनट के अराउंड तकरीबन लगाए. उसने पूरा वीडियो बनाया. वीडियो के साथ में उसने अपना पूरा जो एक मशीन होती है वो लेकर के गए. एनडीआरएफ के लोगों ने सपोर्ट किया, ट्रांसलेशन सपोर्ट किया. वो कोशिश की गई कि वो आगे का जो हमारा पार्ट है उसमें क्या क्या हो सकता है उसको बता दे. लेकिन चूंकि उसका माउथ थोड़ा नैरो हो चुका था, इस वजह से 100% एक्यूरेसी से वो नहीं बता पाए. लेकिन उन्होंने जो उम्मीद की है कि अगले 5 मीटर के अंदर कंटिन्यूअस मेटल ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं है. कुछ कुछ हर्डल्स उन्होंने बताए, लेकिन एक जो उम्मीद की जा सकती है कि दे कुड गो अप टू 5.4 मीटर्स. उनकी जो मशीन थी वो 5.4 मीटर्स तक की रीडिंग ले पाई.
All right, moving on now to the latest on the Israel-Gaza war, and that temporary truce between Israel and Hamas is now in place. Remember, it's a 4-day temporary ceasefire. But the big breaking news right now is that initial group of 13 hostages expected to be women and children are said to be freed. However, it's now known that 12 Thai nationals who were held by the Hamas have been released. This was announced by Thailand's Prime Minister, and this will be followed by 39 Palestinian detainees held in Israel being released. This is part of a deal mediated by Qatar that includes the 4-day pause in the fighting by Israel and Hamas in Gaza. The exchange deal will see 50 hostages and 150 Palestinian detainees released over the next 4 days. Well, to talk more about this and bring us the latest, we're joined by Alan Sorensen, Middle East correspondent, Danish daily newspaper. Thank you so much, Alan, for joining us. And tell us, what are you hearing? We were waiting for news of the 13 Israeli hostages being released. The news has come, the Thai Prime Minister confirming that 12 of their citizens have been released and are being handed over to the Red Cross.
Yes, we hear that the Thai foreign workers who were kidnapped on the 7th of October, they have already been released. They have crossed the border from Gaza into Egypt. And what we hear just a minute ago is that the Red Cross is making its way from a hospital, from one of the 4 hospitals. We don't know exactly which hospital, in Khan Yunis, which is just a few kilometers from the Gaza border. And they have the 13 Israeli hostages with them. So soon we will see the cars arriving to the Rafah border, where they will be taken to the Egyptian side, and from there with the Red Cross to a group of Israeli soldiers waiting for them.
Right, Alan, it must be a very, a time full of anxiety and stress for the family members who are waiting for news of their loved ones who've been held hostage.
Yes, it's been a stressful few days because no one has known until this afternoon who is going to be set free today and who is not. I know that the families of those, or family members of those who are being freed today, they just got a phone call an hour and a half ago, or just a short time ago, and they were notified that they need to go now to one of or to different hospitals inside Israel, where the hostages will be brought to on a later stage today.
Right, and the families must be waiting for that phone call. Also, is there hope that this temporary ceasefire could perhaps extend longer than 4 days?
There is a small window of another between 1 and 3 days after these 4 days, all in all. But the estimation is in Israel that it won't last longer than a week, all in all. I mean, 4 days plus at maximum 3 days. And this is due to the reason that Hamas doesn't want to release all the hostages, because it leaves Hamas in a position where it cannot put any pressure on Israel. And Israel also says it wants to continue its military operation inside Gaza.
All right, Alan Sorensen, thank you so much for joining us there with the very latest. Well, earlier today, the ceasefire came into place. As Alan was telling us, there is hope that it could perhaps go on for a week at the most, but then the fighting will resume after that. Here's a report on when the ceasefire finally came into place.
After more than 6 weeks of the brutal Israel-Hamas war, which has seen thousands of civilian deaths, finally the temporary ceasefire came into effect in Gaza on Friday. Within hours, humanitarian aid trucks carrying medical supplies, fuel and food entered Gaza. Allowing entry of aid into Gaza is one of the main points of this Israel-Hamas truce deal. However, explosions were heard in northern Gaza moments after the ceasefire came into effect. That wasn't all. Israeli troops fatally shot 2 Gazans and wounded 11 others as they headed toward northern Gaza despite warnings by Israel not to move towards the main combat zone.
إلى سكان قطاع غزة، الحرب لم تنتهي، الهدنة الإنسانية مؤقتة. منطقة شمال قطاع غزة هي منطقة حرب خطيرة وممنوع التجول بها من أجل سلامتكم. عليكم أن تبقوا بالمنطقة الإنسانية الموجودة في جنوب قطاع غزة.
People were seen walking back to their destroyed homes in northern Gaza, hoping to get back belongings they were forced to leave when the Israeli airstrike started about 6 weeks ago.
راجعين على بيوتنا نشوف نتفقد أوضاعنا أحوالنا كيف بيوتنا نجيب أواعي نجيب غيارات نجيب اللي بدنا إياه مش لاقين غاز مش لاقين أكل مش لاقين شرب يعني الوضع مأساوي جدا الواحد يعني يروح يموت أحسن له.
3 days of the truce period remain and any escalation in civilian casualties will put Israel under the scanner and most likely draw condemnations from across the globe. With Vishal Vivek, Parmeshwar Bava for NDTV.
In other news now, the Supreme Court today raised tough questions against petitioners in the case linked to a report by George Soros-funded group that targeted the Adani Group. Why must we take foreign reports as the truth? We are not rejecting the report, but we need proof. So what proof do you have against the Adani Group is what Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, told the petitioner's lawyer Prashant Bhushan, also asking for a connection between that organization and Prashant Bhushan's NGO. The Supreme Court also asked SEBI what action was taken on short sellers. Well, let's go across to Arvind for more on this story. Arvind, tell us more about what the Supreme Court said.
Gargi, Supreme Court has reserved orders on a batch of pleas seeking investigation into Hindenburg report against Adani Group of companies. Earlier, the Supreme Court appointed expert committee has submitted its report, and today when the matter was taken up for hearing, SEBI submitted its status report. So SEBI investigated a Hindenburg report on 3 different aspects as per Supreme Court order. The first aspect was the allegations that were leveled against Adani Group of companies. On that aspect, SEBI told Supreme Court that 22 out of 24 issues have been investigated by SEBI. On remaining 2 issues, investigation is still underway because the SEBI sought information from foreign regulators, and because the information is yet to be received by SEBI, that's why the investigation is pending on those 2 aspects. On the second very important aspect about the expert committee's recommendation over strengthening a regulatory framework, for which SEBI told Supreme Court that whatever the recommendations that have been put forth by Supreme Court appointed expert committee have been taken on record by both SEBI and also Finance Ministry, and that will be acted upon. And the third very important issue that was raised by Supreme Court was how to protect the interest of small investors on issues whenever the short sellers go for such an attack, and that's where Supreme Court has asked SEBI to ensure that the interest of small investors are protected on such episodes. On the petitioner side, appearing for the petitioner, advocate Prashant Bhushan raised several allegations, including the members of the Supreme Court appointed expert committee, and also on the investigation that was carried out by SEBI. Supreme Court made its stand very clear that they cannot prima facie take whatever the report that have been published by either OCCRP or Hindenburg at face value. There have to be evidentiary value for SEBI to take it on record, and that's why, brushing aside all those allegations that were leveled by Prashant Bhushan, Supreme Court said that the members have been appointed after due consideration, and also now the SEBI's investigation is also still underway. Random allegations cannot be made. Even if the OCCRP report makes some kind of an allegation, there have to be proof for SEBI to take it on record, and that's why Supreme Court, after hearing both the side argument, has reserved the order.
All right. Thanks so much, Arvind, for joining us with what took place in the Supreme Court today. Now, in other news, amid outrage over a series of deep fake videos on social media featuring actors, Union Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar said the centre will soon appoint an officer to take appropriate action against such content. And he said social media platforms have been given 7 days' time to align their terms of use according to the IT rules.
A day after Communication and IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw issued directions on formulating new regulations to deal sternly with deepfake type content, his Deputy and Minister of State Rajiv Chandrasekhar chaired a second meeting with social media intermediaries on Friday. The intermediaries were firmly told to crack down on deepfakes and misinformation. The minister told the intermediaries that the existing laws and rules have clear provisions to deal with deepfake type content. Artificial intelligence generated content, including deepfakes, are covered under Rule 3(1)(b). They must publish in simple language that deepfake is prohibited on their platforms. A Rule 7 officer will assist an aggrieved social media user to file an FIR if approached. There must be 100% compliance to IT Act and rules. The government will show zero tolerance to violations. According to sources in the Ministry of Electronics and IT, the social media intermediaries were told that under the IT rules, in case of violations, intermediaries will have to take action within 36 hours and within 24 hours in case of deepfake type content. Police officers may register FIRs at any point and make intermediaries a party in the case. Police officers may also seek any additional information from the intermediary. Cyber law expert Pawan Duggal says weaknesses and gaps in the existing 23-year-old IT Act law and IT rules are being misused to spread deepfake type content and misinformation on social media platforms.
Why do you think that despite an IT Act, the existing IT rules, deepfake video content, misinformation content are getting viral? Why do you think that the existing legal and law provisions that we have in this country are not having a deterrent impact on those people who are spreading these kind of deepfake content?
Today we have in place the Information Technology Act, which is a 23-year-old legislation. So trying to have outdated tools to deal up with new challenges is not a very fructifying approach. And that's the reason why the existing legal framework is not at all adequate to deal with the challenges of either regulation of artificial intelligence or to prevent the misuse of deepfakes.
In Delhi, with camera person Azam Siddiqui, Himanshu Shekhar, NDTV.
The wreath-laying ceremony for the 5 soldiers killed in the Rajouri encounter was held today. 2 Pakistani terrorists were also eliminated in the operation. But the big worry is that 20 to 25 terrorists could still be operating in Rajouri and Poonch.
At Ajot village, right next to the LOC in Poonch, hundreds gather to pay last respects to Havaldar Abdul Majid, the para-commando who was killed in action with 4 other officers and soldiers in Kalakot forests of Rajouri. The fallen soldier was laid to rest with full military honours. 60-year-old Muhammad said he is proud of his commando son who sacrificed his life for India.
कौन सी चीज आपको ये कहती है एक बाप ने अभी अपने बच्चे को दफन किया तो फिर आप हमको थोड़ा ये दिल में जो है ना हमारा दिल कहता है क्योंकि हमको फख्र है इस चीज का जिस ये हमारी माँ है लड़ते रहेंगे जब तक ये जड़ खत्म ना हो तब तक लड़ते रहेंगे हर एक आदमी लड़ेगा हमारे लिए देश के लिए जान कुर्बान. This is the second soldier from this family who has laid down his life while fighting militants. Entire Ajot village has turned up to pay last respect to fallen soldier Havaldar Abdul Majid, who was laid to rest amid full military honours.
As the army paid homage to their 5 fallen heroes, the army's chief Northern Command said the 2 terrorists killed in the encounter were highly trained in Afghanistan and Pakistan and their killing is set back to terror ecosystem. The terrorists, according to army, had used small cave as a hideout in the forests of Kalakot in Rajouri and such hideouts are difficult to detect and breach.
इनकी ट्रेनिंग कई देशों में हो सकता है हुई हो, पाकिस्तान अफगानिस्तान हो सकता है वहां भी इनकी ट्रेनिंग हुई हो और ये काफी ट्रेंड फॉरेन टेररिस्ट थे और इसलिए इनको खत्म करने में थोड़ा वक्त लगा लेकिन हमारे बहादुर जवानों ने प्राणों की चिंता ना करते हुए भी ये सराहनीय कार्य किया.
According to army, the terrorists were involved in the Dangri civilian killings early this year.
बट मैं मान के चलता हूं कि आज की तारीख पे 20 से 25 यहाँ पर आतंकवादी होंगे जो इस एरिया में ऑपरेट कर रहे होंगे. 1 साल के अंदर हम इसको भी बहुत अच्छे से कंट्रोल कर पाएंगे.
In Rajouri, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
But in Agra, while the families were grieving the loss of their son, Shubham Gupta, the UP Cabinet Minister Yogendra Upadhyay and BJP MLA GS Dharmesh was seen doing a photo op. They were forcing the grieving mother who just lost her son in the Rajouri encounter to pose with the cheque The mother, mourning the loss of her son, is clearly saying that she doesn't want to do the theatrics, but the netas continue. Well, moving on to news from China, and after a spike in cases of respiratory illness, especially among children in China, the World Health Organization has sought details. They've said the illness could be anything, but they need more information about the symptoms, epidemiology, and what has been tested. Meanwhile, the Indian Health Ministry has also put out a statement on this news and said that they're monitoring this outbreak in China, that there's low risk to India from avian influenza as well as clusters of respiratory illness, but they're monitoring the situation there. Concerned over alerts that civilian aircraft may sometimes be flying blind over parts of the Middle East after their navigation systems are being spoofed, the civil aviation regulator has issued an advisory to Indian Airlines.
Concerned over alerts that civilian aircraft may sometimes be flying blind over parts of the Middle East after their navigation systems are being jammed or spoofed, the Civil Aviation Regulator of India, the DGCA, has issued Indian Airlines alerting them of the nature of the threat and how to respond to what is fast emerging as a major international safety hazard. India's aviation regulator says, and I quote, "The aviation industry is grappling with uncertainties due to new threats and reports of global navigation satellite systems being jammed and spoofed." Now, the report takes note of increasing incidents or reports of GNSS, those are the global navigation satellite systems, interference over airspace in the Middle East in the recent past. The circular by the regulator, the DGCA, calls for the development of contingency measures to deal with the jamming of navigation systems and the creation of a threat monitoring and analysis network. So what is the crisis about? According to Ops Group, which is a group of professional pilots, flight dispatchers, schedulers and controllers, a new variety of GPS spoofing is being reported by crews where the signal is sufficiently strong and of sufficient integrity to fool the aircraft systems. The result is that within minutes, the IRS or the inertial reference system becomes unstable, becomes unusable, and in many cases, all navigation capability on board is lost. In instances, the pilots would essentially be flying blind. The primary area of concern is the busy airway in northern Iraq and Azerbaijan, with several incidents being reported near Erbil. By September, 12 separate incidents had been reported, with the latest one being reported near Ankara, Turkey on the 20th of this month. While no one culprit has been identified, it is believed that jamming and spoofing may be happening because of the deployment of military electronic warfare systems in areas where there is regional tension. In cases of spoofing, including in the incident reported on the 20th of this month near Ankara, the navigation display in the cockpit of an aircraft showed a fake location. In this case, the navigation system on the aircraft showed its position as being over Beirut, but that was 120 nautical miles from its true position. The big fear is that airlines with hundreds of passengers on board may end up crossing into restricted airspace which they have unwittingly entered.
All right, so concerning news there. With that, it's a wrap from me. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.